everybody, it's Oksana, and today I'm going to show you how to make this style of pendant right here. And these are exactly the same. This is one that I have made previously that I already oxidized. And the bead is just a little bit smaller here. And this one I have not yet oxidized, I just made it. This is the one I'm going to be demonstrating on in this video. And it's raw copper, and this is a moonstone. It's just a little bit bigger than the other bead. So if you want to see how to make this pendant, then just keep watching. So first thing you're going to need is a coiled coil. The length really depends on the size of the bead you're using. My bead, I think, is about 20 millimeters in size, and this is about 7.5 inches. It's a little more than we need, but I'd rather have a little extra because this kind of thing is really hard to estimate since we're going to be coiling it around. Now this is 26 gauge wire, and I have a little video on how I use the coiling gizmo to make coils as long as I need. So now I'm taking 24 gauge wire, putting it through it until it's coming out the other end, and I'm going to give myself some extra room here, maybe like this much. What is that, like 5-6 inches? Because once you start coiling it, this coil spreads out, so it's better to have extra of the wire that it's on. So I'm just going to cut that, and then I'm going to continue with this 24 gauge wire here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my coil here, and I'm going to wind this 24 gauge wire that the coil is on around this other 24 gauge wire. Actually, I'm going to leave myself a little bit of a tail like this. And now I'm just going to wind it around just like one time, so it's attached. Now I'm sliding my coil up onto here. Let me just tighten these loops up a little bit. Alright, so I slid my coil up, and I'm kind of trying to almost like hold the coil with my nail, because once I start to wrap it, the coil can easily just slide down. Once you do that first wrap with the coil, it tends to stay just fine. It's just that very first wrap. And if you had left a tail of the 26 gauge wire, you could have just held onto that. So there, I have that first little coil going. So now it's much easier to just coil around. Just like that. See that? So I'm going to keep going with it, and I'm going to take my bead, and as I move along here, obviously once this is significantly longer, I'm going to see if this fits around my bead. Now I want it to fit not super tightly around my bead, but just have a little bit of looseness, since we are going to be putting like other wires through, so you don't want it to be like so tight that you can't do anything else. So kind of a loose fit right around the bead is how long you want this to be. Alright, so mine is looking like it's long enough now. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this and slide the rest off. And then I'm taking the 24 gauge wire and just wrapping it around. Just like one time. Alright. And now, taking this wire that it's still on the spool, that's going all the way through the coil, And you have to kind of see which direction, like my coil starts right here. If I were to go in between these coils, I would come in right here and follow this. So I'm going to take this wire and do exactly that. Come in here and follow that coil. See what I'm doing there? And I have a video on how to make a coiled coil like this, if you want to kind of see me doing it. I think I'm a little more thorough in that video about it. So see what I'm doing here now? I'm going to continue with that until I get all the way to the end, and you want to be firm enough so this is not super loose, but don't pull tightly because this wire will pop right in between the coils and go, you know, all the way to the bottom, and we're not going to have that decorative effect anymore. So I will finish this up, and once you get to the end, just coil it around right there to secure it, and we can cut it off now. And pinch it down with your pliers. Maybe pinch this little end as well, where we first started, so there isn't this big gap. Just take your pliers and pinch that down as well. Now we have one wire coming out one end and two wires coming out the other end. So now we're taking one of these ends, doesn't really matter which one. I'm going to take this one with the longer piece here, putting that through my bead, wrapping this around my bead. So I'm going to kind of pull it tight and hold that so I get a nice wrap here all the way around. I'm taking this wire here, putting it around. And what you want to do, I'm going to try to get it in between the coils, and you want to pull it really tight, because what's going to happen if you do that, it's going to kind of pop in there. Alright, so that didn't really go as planned, but usually, there we go. Usually it kind of like pops in. Messed up my coil a little bit. So you don't get that effect where you can tell like something's different. Alright. So that's fine, that's good enough. Now I'm taking these two wires, putting them right through here, just to secure. I wonder if I should shorten this a little bit. It's looking like it's just a tiny bit too long. Yeah, I think that's what I'm gonna do. So now that it's slightly shorter, let's see how that's looking. Okay, so that's good. We still have a little bit of room in there. See those little gaps? So I put that through that little hole. I'm going to do it again. Kind of putting it, see me coming in here? Going around that little wire just to secure it. And tighten that. There we go. Now I can trim off that wire and pinch it down. Alright, I'm just making sure nothing's sticking out there. And then this wire here, I'm going to loop it around this very bottom one, just to make sure it's not going anywhere. And I will cut it off as well. And pinch that down. Alright. So now, this is what we have. Now I'm taking two pieces of 20 gauge wire about 8 inches long, and I'm starting to weave with 28 gauge wire right in the middle of these. By the way, the wire I use is always dead soft, round wire. Alright, so I'm going to weave the following pattern. I'm putting my wire through the middle, holding it with my finger here so it stays, and I'm bringing it down, then I'm bringing it up the back, towards the front, and then in between. So it looks like I have two little loops. Bringing it up, down the front, up to the back, in between, down, up in the back, towards me, in between. This is the pattern. It's going to look like two loops, one around each wire, then one big loop around both, then two again. So now it's time for one around both, so down. And that's the pattern that I'm going to do, and I'm going to do this for a little bit just so I have enough to make a bail. So however tall you want your bail to be, and of course you can do any pattern you want. This is just the pattern that I decided I wanted for my bail. Go ahead and do that, and I will be right back. Alright, so once I have woven long enough for this to be my bail, what I'm doing is keeping this weaving wire here in the front, separating these wires a little bit, and I'm taking these, so this is my back. This is how you tell. See this wire coming up here? You don't want that to be in the front. This will be my front. So I'm taking the two back wires of the bail and I'm putting them through, one on each side, right here. See that? One on each side of that middle wire that's going through the bead, like this. And then I'm separating them back out and having them meet up with the two front wires. So I have 2 and 2 wires here. My weaving wire is in the front. This is my bail. So now I'm going to weave around these 2 wires. So you might want to use pliers or something to help you get these as close together as possible so that your weave will look nice. And the weave that I'm going to do is going to be the following. And again, you can do, if you like the one that I did up here, you can do that. But the one I'm going to do is going to involve single loops around this wire. It's going to be 4, 3, 4, and then 2 loops around both. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Let me tighten that up and then zoom in to show you what it looks like. And this doesn't need to be very long, just about an inch or so. So after you've gone about an inch, cut your weaving wire. You're done with this side. And now we're going to do the exact same thing here on this side. And it's a little wobbly, but it's not going to be after we secure everything. So I'm weaving the same exact pattern for around, in this case it's the bottom wire, 2 around both. 4 around the bottom, 2 around both. And I'm going to do this for a little longer than the other side, maybe like 1.5 inches, 2 inches. And then I'm going to stop, but I'm not going to cut my wire because I don't know yet. I may need to weave a little more. So, alright, so here's what we have. Still have my weaving wire. I'm taking this, kind of bending it towards the back here. And then I'm taking this and I'm doing the same thing. Actually, let me take my pliers here. I'm just going to turn it. Okay, so actually let me lift this up for a second here. This part is a little tricky because this is so wobbly right now too. So I am bringing this in the back. I'm trying to keep it tight, but not super tight, because we're going to need a little bit of room back there to tuck some wires in. There we go. Now I'm bringing this on the other side, so like that. Kind of want to make a little crisscross. I'm taking these and I am tucking it right through there. Can you see that? Just bringing them towards the back, but underneath that, towards the back. All right. So like that. You can kind of mess around with this a little bit later to get it to look how you want. But now I'm taking these 2 wires that I have been weaving on, and I'm continuing to weave until I get to right there. Alright, so once that goes just a teeny bit more than halfway, you can bend it to go around your stone. And we're going to take these 2 wires and we're going to put them right through there. So on the right side of this wire. I'm going to put them through. There we go. And now you can adjust this a little bit by kind of giving it a little twist and bringing it just a touch closer to the stone so you don't have that big gap. And all we have to do is just to tie up some of these loose ends. So I'm going to trim these pretty short. And I'm going to trim these short as well, like that. So here on the bottom, I am just going to pinch those down. Actually, let's see if I can use my round nose pliers. And to just kind of tuck them away. And kind of tuck them around that wire there in the middle to secure them. Here we go. And then the top, just going to take my round nose pliers and just kind of loop them this way. This is what the pendant looks like from the back. And this is the front, and you can mess around a little bit. The front, and just adjust these wires however you want. Until you get it how you like it. That's basically the gist of it. And let me actually flatten this one this way too. Get a little bit more of a bend there. There we go. So here is the finished piece. Alright, so here is the other piece that I showed you before. That's the same style, it's just oxidized. And that is it. That is how you make this style of pendant. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.